So the Constitution says all men are created equal.
No, you're thinking of the Declaration of Independence.
Wait, so does the Constitution mention equality?
The original Constitution never listed anything about equality. It wasn't until after the Civil War that the issue was addressed. With the addition of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments.
I remember the 15th. It's a voting amendment. It's the one that said you couldn't stop someone from voting because of their race.
Yes, all three of these amendments, the 13th, 14th, and 15th, are called the Reconstruction era amendments because they were added right after the Civil War to protect the rights of men who had just been freed.
I also know the 13th Amendment abolished slavery, but not everyone had the same rights after the 13th Amendment. All men didn't have equality.
Unfortunately true. Citizenship was not defined until the 14th Amendment. In fact, according to the 14th Amendment, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. This amendment was the result of
that court case we talked about last week?
Dred
Scott v. Sanford.
Right. The 14th Amendment addressed the issue in Dred Scott regarding citizenship. If you remember, in that case, the Supreme Court ruled that slaves were not citizens of the United States. It continues to be considered by scholars to be one of the worst decisions in U.S. history.
So the 14th Amendment is the one that made everyone equal?
It's a little more complex. The issue of equality is actually rooted in three parts of the amendment: the privileges or immunities, due process, and equal protection clauses.
I have notes right here on the privileges or immunities clause. There is some evidence that the framers of the 14th Amendment considered the privileges or immunities clause to be the most important of these three clauses. However, in the slaughterhouse cases in 1873, the Supreme Court interpreted the meaning of that clause in such a way as to make it all but meaningless.
Right.
Wait a minute. I also know that we talked about the due process clause when we were learning about incorporation, that certain parts of the Bill of Rights apply to the states. But what's equal protection?
The Equal Protection Clause states that no state shall deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. This clause is really important because it helped fulfill the idea in the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal.
So after the Equal Protection Clause, everyone's equal according to law?
Well, it requires the Supreme Court to weigh in and help guide us through their decisions.
Like how?
The court interprets the idea of equality when it rules on court cases. The court has heard cases involving the rights of women, people with disabilities, and cases involving issues of racial equality. In each of these cases, the court has helped define the meaning of equality.
An example, please.
The court case Brown versus Board of Education. The court put an end to racial segregation in public education.
So it's all good now?
It's still a work in progress. But do you know what's really special about these Reconstruction era amendments? It's the first time that Congress was given the power to enforce the provisions of an amendment by legislation. In fact, the last section of each amendment states Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation.
Has Congress ever used this power?
They have, as exemplified by the Disabilities Act. Congress used this to help achieve equality for disabled persons, and Title IX of some of the education amendments to the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to promote equality for girls and women in education.
Any part of the government that has a role in helping us better understand and achieve equality is a good thing. It seems to represent more of the people's will, and that's really what the framers intended, right?
Exactly. I think you understand the true thought behind the Constitution. It's really us, the people, that govern this country by voting and electing those that best represent our views.